How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today a full guide of the best neighborhoods Denver, Colorado has to offer going into 2025, and we are starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett. And listen, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or around Denver, the Front Range, Colorado for that matter, this is a channel for you. So you're going to want to make sure you click on that subscribe button. I am also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of the state's most talented realtors. And we love helping people move here, and we're doing so each and every day. So the number and email you see on your screen, know that I'm always the person answering those when and if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is the complete guide to the best neighborhoods Denver, Colorado has to offer in 2025. All right, so we have a ton of great neighborhoods in and around Denver. For the sake of time, we are going to cover a lot of area in a short period of time because I would imagine most of you have better things to do than listen to me and look at this face without falling asleep or getting bored out of your mind. So having said that, again, we're going to cover them quick. Not go into super high detail about them, but give you a good running list, general idea of these communities, something you can start with. And along this channel, you will see I will have more detailed videos about the specific regions as we go. I also say we're going to lump some of them together if they're somewhat interchangeable or they have a relation to each other. If you live in one and you'll enjoy the others. So, having said all of that, we begin with some of my favorite neighborhoods and communities in all of Denver, and that is the Highland, Sloan's Lake, getting into Edgewater, all west of Denver, right across I-25. Edgewater, technically its own town, so it's not part of Denver, but I include it because I think if you live in the Highlands, Sloan's Lake, and obviously Edgewater, if you live in either of these two, these three are kind of interchangeable. You'll tend to move between both, especially if you're in Sloan's Lake, because the Highlands and Edgewater tend to have most of the businesses or things to do, although Sloan's Lake is catching up. So Highlands, one of the most, again, walkable communities that you are going to find anywhere in Denver. I believe the perfect blend of urban and suburban with all of the things. A lot of new construction there. You'll see some, old historical, bungalows, things of that nature, but a lot of new construction and a lot of variation as far as homes you can find, single family, townhomes, condos, you name it. Sloan's Lake, you'll see a lot of the same, and then certainly your price points will be pretty high between Highland and Sloan's Lake, and especially in Sloan's Lake as you get closer to the lake and closer to some of the amenities there. Along 17th Avenue in Sloan's Lake, you have what used to be St. Anthony's Hospital, now a ton of restaurants and apartments and things of that nature. You got the Lake House, which now this beautiful condo building that looks over the lake. So a lot going on there. And then Edgewater, more of, again, this like small community. It's only a handful of blocks, its own town. Along that, you have 25th Avenue coming off of Sheridan that cuts right through the heart of Edgewater. A lot of breweries, shops, things along that road there. So again, people that are looking for this like the idea of having, again, walkability and some of those amenities without necessarily being in the heart of downtown. I think it has a great blend for that. Moving right along, we get a little closer to downtown, and again, just across I-25, moving towards the city, and you move towards 5 Points, or what many people will call River North or Rhino. Technically, there's the the Rhino Art District, and 5 Points are two different locations, but within that, you'll see a ton of new development. And one of the key points of Rhino is its art district, ton of restaurants, areas of Larimer Street with just, again, ton of walkability, great for a night out and food, a lot of great bars, a lot of great, boutique shops, places to hang out in. I found that a lot of people enjoy being close to Rhino, 5 Points. Again, I would call it 5 Points. Again, a lot of great apartments. You're close to Lodo, which is admittedly an area that I didn't cover in this video. I mean, lower downtown Denver, close to Coors Field, but 5 Points will have kind of that mix where you can get into the city real quick. There's a ton to do, a ton of different living styles, and some really, really cool apartments for those of you looking to rent. You'll see a lot of places with the rooftop pools and great views and all that good stuff. Walkability in 5 Points will be very high there. Again, you're close to Lodo. There's a lot to do in that area. So walkability score will be on the plus side. And one of the cool things I got to mention about that area is also a lot of the industrial buildings that were turned into lofts and turned into apartments, really cool in that way. And that's what, a lot of our industrial buildings were initially in that lower downtown and Five Points area. And now they've evolved into these apartments, townhomes, etc. Keeping it moving, next up, we've got Cap Hill and Uptown. Capitol Hill right next to the Capitol there. Uptown just north of Cap Hill, split by Colfax. Within these two communities, you've got, again, lots of walkability, lots of restaurants. You've got Colfax, you've got 17th, you've got 19th, that again, filled with different places to visit. Colfax has a ton of different concert halls, eateries, you name it. You got Cheeseman Park right there. Cap Hill, you'll see a lot of old Victorian mansions, great places. A lot of those will be chopped into apartments and condos. A lot of different variations there. Uptown, you'll see a lot of tall, new apartment buildings and condo buildings there. So really cool neighborhoods, right on the edge of downtown, where you're technically a 5-minute drive from right in the heart of downtown. But I mean, really, you're in the skyscrapers. You can walk a couple blocks and you're there. Cap Hill and Uptown are probably the ideal downtown living, if you will. 5 Points just kind of on the outskirts. I don't know very many people who live in Lodo. It's why I didn't cover it in great detail here. Whereas Cap Hill and Uptown, I know a ton of people who live in those communities and enjoy it. Next up, just a little east of Uptown and Cap Hill, you have City Park. As you can imagine, these communities that are right by City Park, walkability is going to be a bit more moderate in City Park. Typically, you're just a little farther away from businesses. Not to say that there aren't things to walk to, and obviously you have City Park there, museum, zoo, all of those things. Golf, if you're into that stuff. So City Park will have that going for it. You're getting a bit more suburb. You're getting a little bit, just on those outskirts of the city. Still, plenty of traffic, plenty of people moving around. You'll see a lot of Tudor-style homes in these communities, some bungalows, and obviously, throughout Denver, you're going to see some new construction and homes that have been wiped and rebuilt. Then we're just going to keep moving a little farther east of City Park and we get to Park Hill. Now, Park Hill, pretty large community. You've got South Park Hill, which is technically or typically the more popular. North Park Hill. Reason South Park Hill is more popular is because homes tend to be bigger, lots tend to be bigger, and you are closer to City Park. You're closer, right by the museum, things of the city, but both extremely popular. Park Hill, you are definitely getting more suburb. You're definitely going to see, I mentioned Tudors, I mentioned bungalows. You're going to see larger lots. You're going to see mature trees. You're going to see wide sidewalks. You're going to see communities where, and again, we talk about moderate walkability. There's areas of Park Hill that'll have, a pretty decent amount of walkability where you can get to a shop or a cafe. And again, when I talk to people, for some people that's very important, and for some people they don't care. They'll get in their car and they'll drive to the restaurant they want to go to. But it's a great community. Very, I would say family oriented. Not to say that you have to have a family to live at Park Hill, but when I talk to people, a lot of the people who have or are starting a family and they want to be near-ish Denver or downtown Denver, Park Hill tends to be one of those places that piques their interest. Moving north and just off of I-70, you run into Central Park. Originally called Stapleton. It was Stapleton Airport was there. That was Denver's airport before Denver International Airport opened back in the 90s. Central Park recently renamed that. And we're talking about a very, very new development. We're talking in the last handful or, last decade or so that really started to grow. Most of it, if not all of it, within the last 20 years. But a ton of new construction, really a master plan community, which I don't know if we can say about any other neighborhood we're going to cover here, where they really thought through, again, where the park is, where the trails are leading to it, the different businesses. And again, you're not going to see much from a historical standpoint as far as housing. Most of it is going to be, new development, very modern look to that community, and very much growing in popularity. Coming back closer to downtown Denver, we go to what I've often called the most walkable neighborhood in all of Denver, and that's going to be Cherry Creek. So Cherry Creek is going to be, not that any of these communities are necessarily cheap by any means. Denver's expensive. Cherry Creek is probably going to be on the highest end of what we're talking about. Again, whether you're buying or renting, you're going to have townhomes, condos. A lot of your detached, your single family homes are going to be like pricey and very nice homes. You don't really see a lot of dumps in Cherry Creek. But Cherry Creek is filled with all of the shopping. Cherry Creek Mall, all the boutique shops, jewelry, you name it, restaurants galore, coffee shops, a ton of businesses located in it. It's kind of the epicenter of much of the business that's done in Denver. You'll see a lot of business lunches and coffees done there. Parking can be a pain for that reason, but Cherry Creek's going to be very high on your list there. And that's just running east outside of Denver. You take First Avenue or Spear, turns into First Avenue, runs you right through the heart of Cherry Creek. So one of the most popular neighborhoods for people, living there. And the thing that I would add about Cherry Creek is that while there's a lot going on, it's also an area that tends to get quiet earlier in the night. So as much as like the Highlands, I mean, the Highlands has areas that will stay open later. Certainly Rhino has that. Whereas Cherry Creek tends to get quiet around like 9 or 10 o'clock. So pretty calm. That could be good for you. That could be bad for you. Just depends. But it's not a place where you're not seeing ragers until 2 o'clock in the morning in Cherry Creek. They're a little classier than that. Heading south of Denver in one of the most, again, popular neighborhoods in all of the city is Wash Park, or Washington Park if you're not from here. I joke. Wash Park is probably, the park itself, it's probably the most popular park in all of Denver. I mean, there's some other great ones, don't get me wrong, and I lived in Sloan's Lake for a long time. I think Sloan's Lake is wonderful, but I mean, Wash Park, it's a thing. Go there on a sunny day, especially on the weekend, and there are people everywhere doing different things. They have ponds with I shouldn't say paddle boards, excuse me. They have like the little paddle boats that you can rent. They've got tennis, they've got basketball, they got, a big walking track, they got a creek, volleyball. I mean, just there's everything. There's all sorts of things happening in Wash Park and the neighboring community. You've got, some, again, different like walkable streets with shops and restaurants, things of that nature. Great houses. Again, pricey. You're talking certainly getting over $1 million for most of the detached homes that you're going to find in that area. And if you really want desirable, areas of Wash Park, you're talking multiple millions for these houses, or at least well over $1 million, I should say. So certainly a pricey place, but one that, when you see the community, you really get a feel for. It's nice. There's a lot going for it. It's one of my absolute favorites. And I think it's going to be, good for someone who really likes outdoor. Like you like that you're close to Denver, you're great location. All of these genuinely have really good locations, especially in relation to Denver, and for that matter, getting into the mountains if you're in Wash Park. But really just that outdoor feel. I love getting over into that neighborhood, parking, hitting a quick coffee shop, Wash Park, one of my absolute favorites. And then you walk a couple blocks and walk around that park, take the baby with us. I mean, it's a great day. So if you're into that kind of outdoor, just good feeling neighborhood, Wash Park is really going to be at the top of your list. And a couple more to cover before I let you go. We look at Baker and Platt Park. So Baker, south of Denver, along Broadway. Again, kind of an industrial area where a lot of places have been turned into townhomes, some modern new builds and construction there, some good walkability within it. Again, parts of Broadway there. My favorite restaurant, Brewery Bar 2. I always have to give it a shout out because their green chili is spectacular. And then south of Baker, you run into Platt Park. Platt Park, huge fan of. Couple of the big reasons for it. One, part of Platt Park runs along South Broadway, some of the best shops and restaurants and bars along that. And then it's also in the heart of Platt Park, you have Pearl Street. So there is a Pearl Street in Boulder, which I mean is probably the most walkable street that I know of in any of the Denver metro area. But this Pearl Street, still several blocks. I mean, it's a long stretch of road with restaurants, coffee shops, boutiques, all the things, but also has like a mix of housing along it, different things, schools, and so it's just a great stretch where you can go from one end to the other. It doesn't take you 5 minutes like a lot of these small walkable areas might. You can be there for a day and just kind of exploring around that Pearl Street area. So Platt Park, ton going for it. And between these two, again, a lot of, you can find older homes that were built, in the beginning of the 1900s. and then a lot of scrapes, a lot of new builds, a lot of new construction. So, I mean, just anything you really want within that, whether you like some history, you want some character to your house, or whether you're a more modern, enjoying person. And then last up today is University and University Park. Again, south of Denver, wrapped around the University of Denver, or DU. I always have to mention this. We like switching our letters around for some reason. But University of Denver, one of the most prestigious, universities in the country. Really beautiful campus just in general, and their hockey program is badass. But around University, great neighborhoods. A lot to do there. Again, shops, walkability in University and University Park is, again, going to be moderate. There's certain areas where you'll have a quick, hop, skip, and a jump, as they say, to local businesses for your amenities. And there's other where you might have to jump in a car and make a drive. Really popular neighborhoods, great houses. And again, you're living in an area where University Park is a really cool park to go and visit. DU is a big deal there. That will drive a lot of people to those communities. So you're going to want to keep an eye on those University and University Park neighborhoods. They are very, very popular. I would add within that, you're going to have Observatory Park, which is one of the most desired. It's a pretty small community within Denver. Pricey homes. And part of the reason for that is because there's just not that many homes in that community. So when they come up for sale, people tend to pounce, but Observatory Park is going to be a huge perk of that area. And obviously being, close to a university, you're going to have a lot of student housing. You're going to have a college presence in that area. Some of your bars are going to be outstanding dives where, if you go into it as an old man like me, you're going to look like an outcast. That's okay. I go in with my Letterman's jacket, talk about my glory days of being a high school failure. Now listen, there are a ton of great neighborhoods in Denver, and as I mentioned, if I tried to keep you here all day going in depth on all of them, we'd be here for a long time. Tried to cover as many as I could in a reasonable period of time, and I would absolutely love to hear some of your feedback or some of your questions on these communities. And again, on this channel, you will find deeper dives into all of them, and I plan in 2025 to definitely take a deeper dive again into some of these with updates. As you can see, I'm running out of words, and that's a perfect time for me to say, hit me up for any of your questions. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett. That was a complete guide to the best neighborhoods Denver, Colorado has to offer in 2025. Till I see you next time. Peace.